Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm Beverly White from NBC4 Los Angeles. I am honored to moderate this Los Angeles Urban League first public Centennial event, 100 Years of Black History in Los Angeles. Thank you for your kind attention on this last Saturday of Black History Month, but we all know Black history is year-round, and here to help us amplify that message is our host, the CEO of the LA Urban League, Mr. Michael Lawson. Let me tell you a little bit about him before he takes over the screen. Michael Lawson has led the Los Angeles Urban League since 2017. He is a lawyer, a civil aviation expert, a civil rights leader, a Harvard Law grad, and a product of Loyola Marymount undergrad. He's an advocate for arts, human rights education, and so much more. We are honored to be here. Couldn't have done this without you, Mr. Lawson. Thank you so much, Michael. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ms. White. Good afternoon. As she said, my name is Michael Lawson. I'm the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Urban League. On behalf of our board of directors and the entire staff of the Los Angeles Urban League, I thank you for attending our program this afternoon. We trust that our 100 years in Black history in Los Angeles discussion this afternoon will be both enjoyable and enlightening for you. This year, 2021, the Los Angeles Urban League is celebrating its centennial. Today's program is our first public centennial event. It is also the first in a series of speaker panels we have planned. We trust that you'll join us throughout the year to celebrate this momentous year. Let me begin by thanking our centennial sponsors: NBC Channel 4, CIT Bank, Bank of California, the Local Initiative Support Corporation of Los Angeles City Council member for the 8th District, Marquise Harris Dawson, the Sentinel, Bank of America, Union Bank, and the California Endowment. We also want to acknowledge Ford, Cedars-Sinai, Sempra, and Wells Fargo, who provided funds that allowed us to deliver emergency assistance to 80 Black-owned businesses over the past 11 months. Without this assistance, many of these businesses may not have survived this pandemic. This afternoon, I also have the honor of introducing our Centennial video. The video captures our rich history and showcases our past and present. We assembled several of our stakeholders, which included members of our staff, constituents, and board members, and engaged them to tell their Los Angeles Urban League stories and wish the Los Angeles Urban League a happy birthday. Throughout the program, please observe our text to give. And with that, here is our Centennial video. Enjoy today's program. Years ago, brave leaders founded this incredible organization to help African Americans fight for our civil rights and economic empowerment. Since then, the LA Urban League has expanded and adapted its services to meet our community's changing needs.
The Urban League is one of those organizations, those not civil rights organizations, but one of those organizations that empower our communities to be successful.
The Urban League was built to be an economic development organization for African Americans.
They are standing at the forefront of the fight against racial injustice.
And I am so proud to have served on the staff of the Los Angeles Urban League and worked in the community for equality and equity for all. Los Angeles Urban League's history is one that cannot be duplicated.
In October of 1968, when I was first employed as a substitute teacher, you could see the league in the communities, working with families. And Mr. Mack, I was here when he came, and I want to tell you that was one of the best relationships I've had with a boss. He was so on to it. He would motivate us, move out in the community, encourage them to work with their children. The list goes on and on.
Programs of the Urban League are real-world programs. They're not just sitting in a classroom and learning some theory. You're getting hands-on training so that when you go out, you have a skill.
Workforce development, backstage careers, and my favorite, BizCamp, a program designed to teach young adults the skills of becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Our careers programs, such as Backstage Careers for the entertainment industry, our programs that we have around healthcare and logistics and others, really do the work of creating new opportunities that last a lifetime.
Urban League about 2 years ago helped me get a job that who would have thought after not working for 5 years that I can get.
In 1965, it was hard. I needed a job. After 5 years with Universal, I came to the Urban League and I got a job in 1970. We were the inner city hope.
I wanted to get into artwork and I wanted to get into VFX, and I didn't have any idea of how to get into it. With this program, it will open doors for young adults just to propel themselves even faster into the industry, especially people of color.
I came in contact with the Urban League when I was looking for a job years ago. They sent me on an interview. I got the job on the spot. The different programs, the different things that we do, and I just love it.
I would not trade my experience for the world, and I'm so grateful for the continued opportunities that the League continues to provide to myself and others.
Happy birthday to the Los Angeles Urban League. 100 years of tireless, irreplaceable, committed service to our community, the city of Los Angeles, and the Southern California region.
Happy birthday to...
Happy birthday, Los Angeles Urban League. Here's to 100 years of empowering communities and changing lives.
Happy 100th Los Angeles Urban League. Please continue to partner with us and invest in the Los Angeles Urban League as we're building a stronger foundation for the next 100 years.
Happy 100.
Happy 100.
100.
100th birthday.
Happy birthday.
100.
I would like to wish the Los Angeles Urban League a 100th anniversary.
100 years.
Happy Centennial, Los Angeles Urban League.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to the Los Angeles Urban League.
Happy birthday.
Happy Centennial.
Happy Centennial.
Happy birthday. And many, many more.
Happy birthday indeed, LA Urban League. Again, as your moderator, it's my honor to introduce the panelists. But before I do, I'd like to remind you in the audience that this is a conversation on this occasion of the Centennial. We welcome your questions, so please submit your inquiries for our panelists in the chat box. And Ashley McCullough will join us a little bit later to moderate that part of our program. Again, it's now my honor to bring forward, at least virtually, our panelists who are an esteemed bunch. We're so glad you could be here, starting with Pamela Bakewell. She is the Executive Vice President and CEO of the Bakewell Company. She also is in a leadership position at the LA Sentinel and, of course, Taste of Soul. She has served the LA Urban League as a Chief Neighborhood Officer, specializing in education, jobs, safety, and housing. She's a business leader and advocate for women, Lindenwood University graduate, and a licensed California real estate agent. Please welcome Pamela Bakewell. Give us a wave, Pamela. So glad you could be here today. Also joining us, because again, we have an esteemed panel. We'll get right to questions and answers with them. Sandra Evers-Manley is here. She's a Vice President of Global Corporate Responsibility at Northrop Grumman, a specialist in diversity, equity, and inclusion, a hot topic these days. She's also a filmmaker, a founder and president of the Black Hollywood Education Resource Center, and former president of the Beverly Hills and Hollywood NAACP for 12 years, overseeing the Image Awards, among other things. She's a USC graduate and a member of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. Please make welcome Sandra Evers-Manley. Thank you for being here, Sandra. And our final panelist, again, esteemed bunch is almost an understatement. Reverend James Lawson is joining us. He is, as we all know, a lion of the nonviolent movement of America, who famously taught Martin Luther King and countless others, the foot soldiers in the nonviolence resistance movement. He has been jailed and expelled, but never deterred. A lifetime of service in the streets and the pulpits, a sought after public speaker. We're so glad to have you with us here today, Reverend Lawson. Pastor Emeritus of Los Angeles' Holman United Methodist Church, who famously eulogized Congressman John Lewis only 6 months ago. Welcome and thank you, Reverend James Lawson. So good to see you, sir. In the order of introduction, I'd like to start with a few questions for our panelists. Pamela Bakewell, you said in the video that the Los Angeles Urban League history cannot be duplicated, but I'd like to know from you, I'm sure our viewers would like to know as well, How can it be sustained and perhaps amplified?
Well, I think we really have to continuously educate our young people so that the next generation takes seriously, which I think the George Floyd incident certainly brought that to life, that we cannot take for granted what we have. We've actually, and I'm not saying I was on the front lines, but during my childhood, I experienced the white only, segregated South because I'm from New Orleans. But in order for the Urban League's legacy to go on, our young people really have to grab hold of their history and really understand it and want to absorb it in order for them to develop legacies. And so the Urban League just, as I said, cannot be duplicated because it was on the front lines with Reverend James Lawson, with John Lewis, with John Mack, with the Danny Bakewells, all of those that really fought. And sometimes our young people don't know who they are. So that's my point. Really get a precious understanding of what has happened in the past in order to develop their own strategies. They won't be duplicating what we've done or what some of us have done, but they'll be developing their own legacy, but they have to be on the front line. I think that's how the Urban League's legacy will continue.
Thank you, Ms. Bakewell. Let's ask Michael Lawson to amplify that message, sir. That's obviously why we're here. What do you make of that question, sir, and your response?
Thank you very much for that question, and thank you, Pamela, for that background. The fact of the matter is we have to pivot toward the 21st century. Yes, we have to continue to do the job training, but we have to move more into entrepreneurship and in entrepreneurship in every area. This pandemic has been devastating to the entrepreneurs in this city, and we have done, I cannot say enough about the staff and our funders who allowed us to keep a lot of these businesses alive when they would not have been without us being here. But beyond that, we want to recreate Greenwood, Black Wall Street. That is our goal. That is our focus. We want a situation where a dollar dropped in our community stays in our community. The example that I use is Koreatown. I have nothing against, I have all the respect in the world for what they've done in Koreatown in Los Angeles. A dollar dropped in Koreatown stays there for 50 days. And that's what we have to recreate. That is what was happening in Greenwood, in Tulsa, and other cities. We talk about the devastation of Greenwood, but that was not the only devastation that occurred. But yes, that is our goal, to get back to what our forefathers were already doing and go beyond.
Powerful response. Thank you, sir. The next question is for Sandra Evers Manley. Ms. Manley, your work in diversity, equity, and inclusion is so timely as the racial reckoning following last summer's events has forced introspection, in corporate America. If we're being honest, what will corporate America see, and how can the Los Angeles Urban League influence better outcomes?
Thank you so much, Beverly, and it's an honor to be here with this distinguished panel. I think when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've got to make sure that we, as African Americans, that there's a room at the table, that we are there helping to be a part of the decisions that are being made. We've got to make sure that we are in those C-suites, and we've also got to make sure that we've got individuals who look like us employed in jobs that are going to be life-sustaining, jobs in the sciences, technology, engineering, and math. We've also got to make sure that when it comes to hiring, promotions, and development, as well as compensation, that when you see African Americans present, that we are equal in every sense of those jobs, as well as salaries. So I think what we need to see and what we need from the Urban League is to make sure that we are present in corporate America and that we hold corporate America accountable. We hold them accountable for hiring, but we also hold them accountable for their investments in our communities, especially our businesses, but also in our nonprofits and in our educational institutions.
Thank you, Sandra. Mr. Lawson, your thoughts on that? It's a mission statement. How is the LA Urban League responding in real time?
I'm not sure I know that answer to that, Ms. White, at all.
I think, though, that when I came to LA in 1974, I found a group that was multiracial, intergenerational, that was multi-creedal, multi-political in terms of ideas, that called itself the Los Angeles Civil Rights Movement. They represented a wide swath of people across LA, and they were pushing for change as a community group. They had many excellent voices in their midst that I heard and became acquainted with. So I would say that the most important thing is for the Urban League to continue to be a part of such a struggle, because this cannot be done. The work that still remains to be done, which is a monumental task, cannot be done by any single section of our community, of our country. It has to be done by the growing up of a people who believe firmly and live firmly out the truth that we hold these truths to be self-evident. It seems to me that Stacey Abrams' struggle in Georgia is an example of it. They claim without any reservation, we are a multiracial effort. We are an intergenerational effort. We are an effort that have many leaders who are both female and male. And we have many positions, but we're going to systematically change Georgia. So it seems to me that's a good model for what I see in Los Angeles. And of course, when I say this, recognize Urban League has been one of the staunch, stable leadership groups in most places that I've been. Memphis, Tennessee, LA, Atlanta, elsewhere. So.
It's a powerful endorsement, Reverend Lawson. Thank you. Michael Lawson, how do you receive that information? You mentioned the sponsors a short time ago. Coalition building sounds like a key part of your mission.
Absolutely, absolutely. We can't do this alone, and it is beyond just the work has to affect a broad swath of people, and we are a part of those collaborations. There's no question that we are working hand in hand, arm in arm. Quite frankly, following the example set by Reverend Lawson and the people that that he worked with. Reverend Lawson set the table. He wrote the blueprint that we're trying to follow, and the blueprint includes collaboration, and that is exactly what we're doing. We are working with multiple groups, including, for example, we're spending a significant amount of time on anti-Asian hate crimes that are going on, not just in Los Angeles, but in other cities, because this affects all of us. So yes, we are moving toward moving through the 21st century, but we have to remember that a lot of the tools that we are using are tools that were designed by people like Reverend Lawson, and move forward with that.
Thank you, Michael Lawson. That transitions nicely to my next question, which is for Reverend Lawson, regarding how the LA Urban League prides itself on preparing African Americans for dignity through work. Can you tell me how the struggle that you have marched through, survived, and inspired, how has the struggle for equal opportunity evolved through nonviolence and the role government must play?
Well, I'm not sure. That's a very, very big question and a good one. But I would say that the unique role of Urban League in Massillon, Ohio, where I grew up, and elsewhere, of the Urban League being a nonprofit leadership group in helping the community understand its responsibilities and its task. That's critical. It is a united task. It can only be done by a sizable, growing enterprise. In the 1950s and 60s and 70s, the fundamental task of the Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks dimension of the civil rights movement was to dismantle the laws and the customs and the structures of racism. We did not complete that task in the 20th century. It still has to be done. So the power of any movement is going to be determined by whether or not it is doing the job of continuing to dissolve and end the structures of torture and cruelty, while at the same time then helping the society economically and politically to develop new ways of justice and truth.
I'd like to direct this next question to Sandra Evers-Manley, pivoting toward imagery and the importance of messaging, which is a key part of the struggle, letting people know the good work that's being done and what's to come, what the obstacles are. Your work in Hollywood is without parallel. As we enter into awards season, are you hopeful for deeper and better truth-telling going forward?
I will always be hopeful, but there's much work to be done. On the eve of the Golden Globes, for example, done by the Hollywood Foreign Press, that will be taking place tomorrow. Out of 87 voting members, there's not one Black voter. And so as a result, you can see that in the nominations. There is much work to do in Hollywood, and I will just say image is everything. I always like to think of things as an A and B picture coming from my family in Mississippi, a civil rights family. We were always taught that A picture was home base and what was going on in our individual community. And so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the significance of the Black press in Los Angeles and how we should be supporting our Black press. The Black press tells our stories. They're with us daily. So I would just say it's important for us to never forget to make sure we subscribe to the Los Angeles Sentinel, the Wave, and other Black publications, because those are truly the soldiers without swords who are telling our stories and our picture. But on to Hollywood. While I'm hopeful, there is so much work to be done. There's been so much damage when it comes to our images. But I will just say I have seen some movement in a really good way as it relates to individuals becoming chairmen, like Channing Dungey is now the new chairwoman of Warner Brothers. There's some great things happening where there's finally going to be a 4-part series on the life of Emmett Till. But not only is that story being done by African Americans, but they brought together a group of Black women, Gina Prince Bythewood, Julie Dash. These individuals are going to help tell that story. But I will just say we've got a lot of work to do. And while I see a lot of great things happening, the question is, will it be sustained? Is this just a moment in time, or is this a movement that's monumental? And that's yet to be seen. So we see a lot of things happening. We cannot ignore the great work of Ava DuVernay, of what's happening with her production company, as well as her distribution company and programs like Queen Sugar. But image is everything. And we've got to work on that image that has gone out into the world that oftentimes is not portrayed as in the right way. But right now, I will also say there's some amazing stories that are out that we should be supporting. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, One Night in Miami, Sylvie's Love. There's so many more, but we've got to do our part. And then lastly, we've got the Pan-African Film Festival that kicks off tomorrow, that will go on until March. It is up to us to make sure that those programs are live, that they're vibrant, and we're supporting them.
Thank you, Sandra. You actually,
here.
Forgive me?
May I have an add a word?
Of course you can, Reverend Lawson. And next up after your comment, sir, will be Ms. Bakewell. I have to get in a plug for the LA Sentinel, and I want her to do that too. But Reverend Lawson, please.
No,
please, sir.
Well, I wanted to push hard on the fact that in my youth, the Urban League had a staff in Massillon, Ohio. To have a nonprofit organization with a staff who can do the work, especially the work of trying to get our white fellow citizens to see some of the issues and to support the changes that are needed. Because many white people do not see the issues in Los Angeles or elsewhere. So I want to emphasize the important role of the Urban League in having sufficient funds and raising sufficient funds to have a staff that could do all kinds of work in the city. And the Los Angeles Urban League is one of the good examples of that, because the work needs the attention of full-time people, not amateurs like me whose primary work as a pastor. It needs nonprofit organizations that are fully funded and can provide staff who will gain an experience by jawboning and by educating and by organizing changes that will help the community go forward. We are where we are because the Urban League has been available in so many places in the United States. One of the few local organizations that provides staff who work full-time at these issues.
Thank you, Reverend Lawson. You just set up my question for Ms. Bakewell, because not only does she have a foot in the world of media with the LA Sentinel, she's also been on the staff of the Urban League. Please, Pamela Bakewell, can you take these two seemingly divergent issues and marry them for us?
Well, as you said, I work with the Urban League, I work with the Sentinel, I work with my family's business. We cannot just leave organizing to people who do it every now and then. It is, and I concur very wholeheartedly with Reverend Lawson. We've always said that you have to pay people, unfortunately, but it's true, to do this every day. They wake up, they go to bed, they do this. And I do want to thank, the plug for the LA Sentinel, because I've seen, and it really does warm my heart, that we bring issues to light that the mainstream, I don't want to say just the white press, but the mainstream press does not. And we make sure that the message is out there. So, and we're full-time, we need staff. We have to be sure we're on the ground every day. So this puts people to work, putting people to work on the issues that are very important to the Black community is very, very important. So marrying, full-time staff at the Urban League really meant a lot to me, that I could play a part in the executive staff there. But then I transitioned back over to my family's business, and I helped to run that too. So, I'm kind of in the civil rights business as well as in the administrative business, but I work every day and I'm doing it. When I wake up, I go to bed. So it does make a difference, but we need volunteers too, because everybody can't be staff. So in order to form a coalition, you have to have dedicated people that believe in this and that, surround us, that do get paid to do this on a daily basis and give us the love that we need and the momentum that we need to make a difference.
Beautifully stated. Thank you so much. I'd like to remind our attendees to remember to place your questions in the chat box, because we definitely want to engage you as well. At the end of the conversation, there will be time for your questions. Michael Lawson, you've heard a lot right now about the importance of staffing and professionalism, imagery and media, and it's all about the Urban League today. So please, sir, tell us what's on your heart right now as you hear your fellow panelists amplify and celebrate why we're here today.
Thank you very much for that question. I am blessed to be in this position. I am standing on the shoulders of the giants who came before me, John Mack, Floyd Covington, the people that started the Urban League in 1921, and to have the blessing and honor of being able to sit down with Reverend Lawson periodically and hear his pearls of wisdom and is just incredible. And the fact is that the importance of the Urban League cannot be overstated. We have been involved in the coalitions that Reverend Lawson was talking about, are the coalitions that we are in the process of rebuilding, because we know we can't do it alone. We are we have a lean staff, but everybody works so incredibly hard. I can't say enough about the staff of the Urban League. We punch so far above our weight. We are touching so many different people, and we have so far to go. We need more support. We need a larger staff, and we're building that staff. As we celebrate this centennial, we're looking for the resources necessary to meet those goals, and those goals are growing every single day. So we are excited about what we have done, the people that we have touched, the businesses that we have kept open, the businesses that we are helping to start, the jobs that we are creating in the construction industry, in the backstage careers, and the advocacy that we do for people who call in and just say, I need some help, what can I do? We are there. And we are partnering with other organizations to make up for the gaps that we have in our staff. But understand, we're not trying to be everything to everybody. There are organizations within this city that do extremely good work. Bet Cetic is one of our partners in the work that we do. So just to name one, but we are partnering with other organizations. We're not limiting ourselves to just saying we only work with the African American community, because all of us need to grow together. And that is who we are. That is what we're doing. And again, I cannot say enough about just the honor of being in the presence of Reverend Lawson and being able to listen to him and hear his guidance and see what he is still doing. It is impressive. It is awe-inspiring. It is just gives us hope every single day. And to talk about the Sentinel, the support that the Sentinel has given us, and the voice that it allows us to present to the world cannot be understated. And I can't say enough about Ms. Evers Manley and what the entertainment industry is doing and will continue to do as we move through this. But yes, the Urban League, we're pivoting toward the 21st century as we move. As we said before, entrepreneurship is a big part of it. We're also working with banks and financial institutions to build relationships between that part of our economy and our businesses, because it's more than just being able to fill in the right information on the application. You need to know there needs to be a relationship, and that's what we're building as well. When you saw the list of sponsors, a number of them were financial institutions. That's not simply because they feel it necessary to support the Urban League through their money. We are developing relationships with these organizations. It's not just about the money, it's about the relationships that we're building that will inure to the benefit of our community.
Thank you, Michael Lawson. I'd like to address this next question to Reverend Lawson, because we keep hearing mentions throughout our conversation about the pandemic. It is uncanny to realize the Urban League in Los Angeles was founded as America was coming out of the Spanish pandemic, and they got through it. We will get through this one, sir. What do you see as our agenda going forward? Because pandemic is bringing people together via Zoom, but are we coming together in the right spirit, the nonviolent social movement spirit? Are we doing that, and can we continue to do so?
It's another really tough and rough question. It has broad significance. I'm going to put out maybe two things. One, if the people who call themselves philanthropists were really concerned for this nation's future, they would take a few of their billions of dollars, establish $1 billion endowment for the Urban League in Los Angeles, for the National Urban League, for the Urban League in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Chicago, and allow that money to give the Urban League the stability it needs for producing the staff that the Black community needs to do the work of making our nation a more just society with equality and liberty for all, more of the beloved community. So I'm putting that on a table because I've thought it for many years. Urban League needs that kind of backing because it's one of the few organizations that has provided us with staff who can enmesh themselves in the issues and become professionals. I'm not a professional civil rights person. I'm a pastor. I have engaged in the task of justice for Black people because I don't believe I could have a call of God if I did not care about what Black folk were going through and changing it. So that's one of the things I want to say. The extremely wealthy people of this country ought to endow a variety of Black institutions and organizations to enable them to thrive for the next generation and for the next 100 years. And the second thing I want to quickly say is Urban League and such organizations, and the Black press included at another level, are critical. They represent in nonviolence the development of organizations or structures to do the work that government is not doing. That's the way Gandhi, the founder, the interventor, the person who interrupted 20th century history of the notion of nonviolence. That the development of structures that take upon themselves the task that governments refuse to do. Urban League is right straight down that path. The Black press, I did not really gain an awareness of the issues facing Black people in the United States, especially in high school, except through the Black press. Conventional conversation in our society does not cover the crucial issues. For example, the current discussions of January 6th. Well, one of the realities in U.S. history is that beating up on Black folk has always been a prerogative of white folk. The governments have never discussed this. So if January 6th was a tragedy, it's a tragedy only in the sense that maybe out of it will come for the first time the government deciding that law enforcement does not have to kill people.
Yes, sir.
We've faced that violence across U.S. history. So that's the second thing I would say.
Thank you, Reverend Lawson. I apologize for interrupting you, sir. I could listen to you for hours, as I'm sure the rest of our panelists would agree. We're so grateful for your service. Ms. Evers-Manley, service and strong stories like what Reverend Lawson just characterized still seem to be missing in the entertainment field and the media that most people consume. Are you hopeful post-pandemic we can get these messages right?
You know, we've got to get them right. And that's why the work that the Urban League is doing of training individuals and taking on careers within Hollywood is so important, because we need people behind the scenes. It's one thing to have our actors and actresses, and I would just say a number of them are doing a lot of great things, like Issa Rae, who's promoting Black businesses in Southern California. But we've got to be behind the scenes. We've got to be in charge of our stories. And so we need more individuals working behind the scenes as writers, directors, cinematographers. And again, the work the Urban League is doing is so critical. There's so many of our stories have yet to be told. And if we're going to tell them and tell them right, we've got to be at the forefront of helping to help carry that charge. I will tell you right now, just say this pandemic has taken a huge toll on our community in many ways. And one is in the area of education. There's some of our schools where 60% of Black children are not connected. And now I'm not going to get that story in a regular Hollywood, but I will get that through the Black press of the LA Sentinel, where our stories and what matters most in our community. Things around Black incarceration, again, those stories and the needs that we've got to focus on. We've got to be about the business of telling those stories of what's happening and what are those needs in our communities. I'm hopeful. I see some incredible talent. Gina Prince-Bythewood, Ryan Coogler, who did Panther, Gina, she just did The Old Guard, she did Love and Basketball. Again, Ava, Reggie Bythewood. There's some individuals who are coming up, the Lena Waits of the world, who are out there now telling some amazing stories. But it's not enough. One of the things we cannot do is feel that all of those young people and those individuals in the industry can carry the weight of the world. And so that's why we've also got to support a lot of our local streaming. We've got Queely TV, there's BHERC TV, there's the Urban Network, there's Afro Kids. We've got to be about supporting Black entrepreneurship and these individuals who are setting up these streamings and telling our stories. Hopeful, but we've got to also tell the right stories. And that is both what's happening and where the biggest needs are in our community, as well as promoting stories that are uplifting, that empower young people to be entrepreneurs, to be the next Beverly White, or be a transformative leader like Michael Lawson.
Thank you, Sandra. Pamela Bakewell, a quick answer in the same vein about getting our stories out there in a truthful and strong way before we open the floor for audience questions. Your thoughts, ma'am.
Well, because we're in the business of telling our own stories, I can't say enough about having the support of the urban leagues of the world, the Reverend Lawsons. They feel they have a place to come. And, you know, this is about the Urban League, but we're partners in this struggle. The Black press is partners with and believes in collaboration, believes in supporting Sandra and the efforts with her organization. So this is the Black press, of course, I think we all know who are here. I don't know about all those watching, needs to understand that we've been around. By the way, we're going to be 87 years old this year, the Los Angeles Sentinel. So it really, you know, it means a lot that we were all in the struggle for a very long time, way before my time. So civil rights leaders have you know, made the Black press. Our stories, we tell stories when people like you, Beverly, who really, you know, have done so much in this community. I hate to say it, but many times it's in our paper that we're going to tell your story, and we're going to make sure that light is shined upon you and the Black actors, and that they have a place to come. They don't have to wait until they win an Academy Award to be in the paper. They can tell us as they're struggling, as they're trying to get support. So, you know, the only thing I can say is I think we are an entity that brings it together. But, you know, even the pandemic story, I mean, we're telling the story behind the scenes. We're getting the stories of Ezell Ford's family. We're telling the stories that most press only tell the highlight, the big picture. We're going to tell all of it. So I hope everyone continues to support the Los Angeles Sentinel. But meanwhile, the Los Angeles Urban League, LA Sentinel, the other organizations in our community that need support, we're a family. We're Black community family. And I think as long as we continue to be that, people can't penetrate and make sure that we go away. Sometimes people want us to go away, but I think as long as we stick together, we're going to be stronger. And that's how we're going to get through this pandemic also.
Thank you, Pamela Bakewell. I'd like to invite Ashley McCullough now to join the conversation, as she's been checking the chat room for questions now. Ashley, if you're with us and you're ready to share, we want to make you welcome, ma'am, with a brief introduction. I understand you are a proud product of North Carolina A&T, so it's good to have HBCU in the room, and take it away, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, and I like to say Aggie Pride. Thank you all for having me here today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation today. It has been refreshing and eye-opening as the president of the Los Angeles Urban League Young Professionals. I mean, it has really just put things into perspective as how us as the young professionals can tap into and lean into our market and our network, meaning you all, into figuring out how, like you said, Ms. Bakewell, for the young people to continue to push the agenda forward. So thank you all for taking time to be here. And we do have some questions, and I will just start from the top. One of the questions we have: how can other communities of color collaborate with the Urban League?
Thank you for that question. The Los Angeles Urban League, our focus is on the African-American community, but we understand that we have to collaborate with other organizations. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, we are now collaborating with the API community to push back on the anti-Asian violence that is coming, you see it around the country and in Los Angeles right now. So we are walking arm in arm with that community and saying it is unacceptable. This cannot be, we cannot sit by and say, oh, this isn't me. So no, we are engaged, heavily engaged in talking with the police department, with the sheriff's department, and saying and seeing what we can do to make sure that this doesn't continue, because this is outrageous and it's unacceptable. That is just one example of the type of collaborations that we are engaged in. And I will also say that we are heavily engaged with the Jewish community as well. And because that is a collaboration that goes back decades. And so understand that we know that we can't do this alone, but we are not looking to just lean on other groups to make this happen. We are taking a lead, but we're also walking arm in arm with the partners. When you look at what the coalition of people who protested George Floyd's murder, that's the kind of coalition that we are building on and moving forward. Yes, the crowds aren't there, but the interaction, the discussions, the work is still going on, and it looks like what you saw during the protests of George Floyd's murder. So yes, this is the changes that we need are groundbreaking, and we can't do them alone. So yes, these collaborations are going on, and we welcome all who want to join us.
Thank you. So you heard it there from our president. Our next question is towards Reverend Lawson. And the question says, while there is a coalition building among leaders and organizations, how do we bring community members together in the struggle for equality and justice? For example, conflict and violence between Black and Latinx communities in the Los Angeles area. Should I repeat that? I know that was a bit wordy there.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, all right. I'll read the gist of it. How do we bring community members together in the struggle for equality and justice? For example, violence and conflict between the Black and Latinx communities in the Los Angeles area.
No, it's good. Another very significant issue. Very significant issue. One, we better do a good analysis. Our society is the most violent society in the history of the earth. We believe that power of violence is the most important power for social change, political change, for domination and control. So all of us born and raised in this society are raised with the notion that violence has a capacity to change things like nothing else. Now, this is where nonviolent thought is very different, because we say in nonviolent thought, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal. That notion says that we did not put ourselves here. We are here by virtue of a force or of God or of a creator energy that birthed us. And that means we are deeply connected to each other, and that the cultivation of our humanity is the number one role that we have. To be what you are, I'll quote, to be what you are and capable of becoming what you are becoming is the sole purpose. Every human being has that task. So every human being has a responsibility to resist the racism of our society, the violence of our society, the sexism and maleness of our society, the domination thing of our society, so that they themselves can be a much better human being. There is a collaboration that's not talked about. That is this, that since Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt, the Black community, the Jewish community, the Asian community, the Indian community, and the Hispanic community have all voted nationally the same way, with overwhelming vote against the Republican candidate usually, and against the Republican candidate and for the Democratic candidate. There is a national collaboration. Our 5 communities, representing now almost a third of the population in all the elections, have voted against the Republican stuff by not 51%, but usually by 60, 70, 80, 90 odd percent. Black community has voted overwhelmingly, 90 odd percent, every presidential race against the Republican strain of politics. But so have all the other colored people in the United States, and the Jewish community, because of anti-Semitism, have voted with the people of color. It's the only the Jewish community is the only Eurocentric community that has voted for justice along with the Black community every 4 years, probably the last 100 years.
Thank
So
you.
there is a huge, that's what some people are fearing.
Thank you.
There is a huge sensibility among us that the Republican strain of the last several decades is a strain that hurts us. And the Democratic Party may be weaker than we want them to be, but at least they do less harm to us.
Thank you, Reverend Lawson. So much wisdom from your responses. This question is directed for Ms. Evers Manley. How can individual professionals participate in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space to promote awareness and guide businesses to be better and do better?
You know, again, I'm going to always talk about it starts with us. And so we need to invest in our communities. We need to invest in the Urban League. Urban League has memberships. We need to invest in the Black press. The Sentinel has subscriptions. It is up to us to help carry the torch for our communities. We need to get involved in our local communities. We need to get involved in our nonprofits. So I would say it starts there. We need to start shoring up our community. We need to make sure that Black dollar is circling around throughout our community so that we can thrive, that our businesses, that we can hire individuals that look like us, that our businesses can sustain. So I will always point to our community. And then we need to be vocal about those things that are not going right as it relates to the adverse impact on our community. Black incarceration, things around the educational system. It needs to start there. We need to always put our community first. What can we do to take care of our community? You are a graduate of North Carolina A&T. It is one of my favorite HBCUs in the nation. One of the reasons why it produces the largest number of Black engineers in this nation than any other university. However, when it comes to support of our Black colleges, they are not getting the types of support as white institutions. And so we need to support our Black institutions, even if we didn't go to one. We've got to be about the business of our community. That will help create diversity. That will begin to help create the landscape around equity and inclusion. We've got to be vocal. We've got to be a part of the fight. Reverend Lawson and the civil rights leaders of yesterday gave us a blueprint. That blueprint is just as alive today. There's so much from it that we can learn and that we can do. The last thing I would say is we've got to be present and we can't be silent. The whole thing around the Asian community today, we as African Americans know what violence is. all too often against our community by others. So silence is not an option for us. We've got to be present and we've got to be vocal. That's why the work of the Urban League is so important. So I will encourage anybody, invest in our organizations, invest in our press, but also let's be those role models and those examples of helping our young people thrive in education and then supporting our businesses. Right now, let's put the dollars in our communities around business, and we will see the kind of diversity and equity. And then we've got to hold companies like Northrop Grumman and others accountable as it relates to where is the diversity. The diversity's in the C-suites, the diversity's in the professional ranks, and what are you doing to invest in our communities?
Thank you so much. First, let me just say thank you for spotlighting my institution, proud graduate, and my boyfriend was listening in the background as you recognize as being the #1 to produce engineers, as he is an engineer at Northrop Grumman. So thank you for that. He was smiling very hard. As we continue along that topic of supporting our Black businesses and each other, there's a question that says, what are we doing at the Los Angeles Urban League to support Leimert Park and Crenshaw areas? Or do we have any partnerships to do so to support those areas?
Oh, absolutely. We are in every conversation about Leimert Park and Crenshaw. These are the crown jewels of our community. And the real, there are two parts of it. One is investment, access to capital and access to credit and things of that nature. But there's also a need for a vision of what we want these areas to be. The Urban League is a part of the discussions that are being held right now in that regard. There's excitement about it. There is interest about it. There is that in connection with the Destination Crenshaw work that Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson is putting together and spearheading makes me excited about the possibility of what this area can become. The centerpiece of what I mentioned earlier, the rebuilding of our own Black Wall Street West, if you will. But there is much work that needs to be done. We've got to cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure we push it forward. Wishing is not going to be sufficient. We're going to do what the Urban League does, which is we sit down and put our pencils to the paper and cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that what we want to see is possible and can be done, and we have the resources necessary to do it. We're still in the early stages of it, but the conversations are being held.
Thank you so much. I'll just try and keep the flow of the conversation going. And it says here, it seems like many urban youth and young adults are starting new organizations rather than replenishing our current civil rights organizations. How do we keep our legacy alive and attract young people to those organizations?
I would say that every organization, no matter what it is, whether it's a business, whether it's a civil rights organization, whether it's a restaurant, has to be nimble, has to move with the times, and that's what the Urban League is doing. That's why we're training people for important and well-paying jobs. But we're also focusing on the entrepreneurship, and we're looking at the financial services industry and building collaborations there so that access to credit and access to capital are available. But one of the most important issues that we have to look at right now is the impact of the pandemic on our youth. The fact is that the school children in our community were behind before the pandemic hit, and the pandemic has made that worse. And if we don't act now, that gap is going to widen. And for the younger kids in grades 1, 2, and 3, that gap is going to follow them the rest of their academic careers unless we act now. So one of the things that we're talking about is working with LAUSD and other school districts to put together programs that will make up for that difference, not just help it get started again, but get started again and make up the difference that is there. A part of this is going to require access to high-speed Wi-Fi, which in a lot of our jurisdictions is not available. Is going to require access to laptops and tablets that are not necessarily available. So a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of collaboration needs to be held, and it's going to take funding in order to make this happen. But we're not looking at from quarter to quarter. We're looking at the next quarter century of what we need to do in order to have our community thrive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawson. It is now 1:04, so I will pass the mic back to Ms. White. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for representing your North Carolina A&T, forgive me, North Carolina A&T so beautifully. I know they're proud of you, as are we. And with the last question, we turn the microphone over to our host, our CEO, our fearless leader, Michael Lawson. Thank you, sir, for enabling this conversation. We wish you and the LA Urban League many more years of success.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the panelists. Thank you for your work, Ms. White. We could not have done this without you. Words cannot express how excited I am about what we did today and what we're going to do over the next year as we celebrate our centennial. Ashley, thank you so much. You did a fantastic job. Reverend Lawson, it is always an honor and a pleasure, and I learn so much every time I talk to you. Pamela, it's always a pleasure to engage with you because you are not only a part of a legacy family, but we know that legacy will continue on. And we are honored to be a part of that and to work arm in arm with you. Sandra Evers-Manley, I can't say enough about what you do and the work that you're doing, and taking the time out on the Saturday to be with us has been absolutely fantastic. And I want to also thank the staff that helped put this on. You guys did a wonderful job. Fantastic. Thank you so much for pulling all this together. We will continue to build a strong organization and to advocate for and train and support the underserved communities of Los Angeles, and as we reach out to other communities as well, because we are stronger together. And speaking of being stronger, you can help us by donating to this important work. You can donate through our text to give. Oh my goodness, let me make sure that I have the right information. Please text LAUL 100 to 44-321 if you want to make a donation today. And understand that we are there. We are working remotely and during the pandemic, but you can always reach us. We are there for all of the issues that we talked about today and many more. The Los Angeles Urban League has been here for the last 100 years. We will be here for another 100 years. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and have a great, great afternoon.